What if the war dominating headlines today was never just about one border? What if it's the echo of empires collapsing, secret deals signed in silence, oil discovered beneath the desert, and superpowers turning the Middle East into a chessboard? Over a century ago, the Ottoman Empire fell. Britain and France drew lines through Arab lands in the Sykes-Picot Agreement. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration promised a Jewish homeland in Palestine. 2 promises, 1 land. Before we dive into the main story, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell notification button for more interesting video like this. Then oil transformed deserts into global power centers. Saudi Arabia rose. The Gulf states became energy giants. Iran shifted the balance of power. Wars erupted: Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Gaza. And today the conflict is no longer regional. It affects global energy, migration, religion, and world stability. So the question isn't just who is fighting. The real question is, has the Middle East ever truly been allowed to stabilize? Before the borders ancient to 1914, the Middle East is one of the most historically layered regions on Earth. For thousands of years, empires rose and fell here. Assyrians, Persians, Romans, Byzantines, Islamic caliphates. The land of Palestine became sacred to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. From 1517 to 1917, most of the Arab world was ruled by the Ottoman Empire. Under Ottoman rule, ethnic and religious groups coexisted within an imperial framework. There were tensions but no modern nation-state borders. That changed with World War I. When the Ottomans sided with Germany and lost, Britain and France moved quickly. The secret Sykes-Picot Agreement divided Arab lands into spheres of influence. At the same time, Britain supported Arab revolts, promising independence. And in 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration supporting a Jewish homeland in Palestine. These overlapping promises planted the seeds of conflict across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine. Artificial borders created fragile states. The discovery of oil transformed the region. In 1938, massive reserves were discovered in Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia became central to global energy supply. The United States formed a strategic partnership with Riyadh, trading security for stable oil access. Meanwhile, Gulf states like United Arab Emirates, Qatar, or Kuwait grew wealthy from oil and gas exports. The 1973 oil embargo by OPEC demonstrated the region's global leverage, triggering worldwide economic crisis. The Middle East was no longer peripheral. It was central to global power. In 1948, Israel declared independence under David Ben-Gurion. Arab states including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon declared war. Israel survived and expanded. For Palestinians, it became the Nakba, mass displacement. Wars followed. 1956 Suez Crisis, 1967 Six-Day War, 1973 Yom Kippur War. After 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and Golan Heights. This occupation remains central to the conflict. In 1979, Iran's Islamic Revolution led by Ruhollah Khomeini transformed the region. Iran positioned itself against Israel and Western influence. This intensified Sunni-Shia rivalry, especially between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In the 1980s, the Iran-Iraq War devastated both nations under Saddam Hussein. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War. In 2003, the U.S. invasion of Iraq removed Saddam but destabilized the country, empowering sectarian militias and later enabling ISIS to rise. In 2011, protests erupted across Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Yemen. Authoritarian regimes were challenged. In Egypt, longtime leader Hosni Mubarak fell. In Libya, Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown. In Syria, protests turned into a brutal civil war under Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian war drew in Russia, Iran, Turkey, Gulf states, and the U.S. Millions were displaced. Europe faced a migration crisis. The regional order fractured further. In Yemen, civil war erupted between Houthi rebels, backed by Iran, and the Saudi-led coalition. Saudi Arabia and the UAE intervened militarily. The humanitarian toll became one of the worst in modern history. In Lebanon, Hezbollah, backed by Iran, became a major political and military force. The Middle East increasingly became a battlefield for regional rivalries. While conflict spread, Gulf monarchies pursued modernization. Saudi Arabia launched Vision 2030 under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The UAE positioned itself as a global trade and finance hub. Qatar expanded global influence through media, diplomacy, and energy exports. In 2020, the Abraham Accords normalized relations between Israel and UAE, Bahrain, and later Morocco. This shifted alliances dramatically. The Arab world was no longer unified against Israel. In October 2023, Hamas launched a large-scale attack on Israel. Israel responded with a massive military campaign in Gaza. Thousands were killed. The humanitarian crisis intensified. Regional tensions escalated. Hezbollah and Israel exchanged fire along Lebanon's border. Iran and Israel engaged in direct and proxy confrontations. Houthi forces targeted Red Sea shipping lanes. Global trade routes were disrupted. Oil prices fluctuated. The US, Russia, and China all recalibrated strategies. The war became global in economic and strategic consequences. In early 2026, Israel and the United States launched major military strikes on Iran, marking the most serious escalation since the wider regional conflict began. Iran has retaliated with missile and drone attacks against Israeli and allied targets across the Middle East, including Gulf Arab countries. The Arab League officially warned that the Israel-Iran confrontation risks igniting a full-scale regional war, emphasizing the danger to Arab states and the broader Middle East. Countries including Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria, and others have temporarily closed airspace amid escalating attacks and air defense operations. This has led to thousands of flight cancellations and serious disruption of global travel networks, since Middle Eastern hubs like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Kuwait are critical links between Europe, Asia, and Africa. Major Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, publicly condemned the escalation and called for dialogue to avoid further chaos and stabilize the region. The conflict's spread has driven oil price volatility, disrupted global logistics, and damaged tourism in key Gulf economies, affecting both intra-Arab economic plans and global markets dependent on Middle Eastern energy and transport routes. In early January 2026, forces loyal to the Yemeni government recaptured Aden, a major development in the long-running Yemeni civil war. This followed Saudi-backed strikes and complex rivalries with UAE-supported factions. Throughout late 2025, the Southern Transitional Council, STC, backed by the UAE, controlled large parts of southern Yemen before subsequent counteroffensives and political shifts reduced its power. This reflects ongoing Saudi-UAE competition for influence in Yemen and the Red Sea region. While some Arab states deepened strategic ties with Western powers and Israel after the 2020 Abraham Accords era, 2026 has seen recalibration, with several Gulf leaders emphasizing security cooperation with each other and opposition to wider escalation. Regional powers such as Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are negotiating new diplomatic strategies to balance the Iran conflict, internal disputes e.g. Yemen, Libya, and ongoing Israeli-Palestinian tensions, often independent of traditional U.S. influence. Despite hostile conditions, Arab states and the Arab League continue to pressure for ceasefires and diplomatic solutions, including renewed calls for UN intervention and de-escalation frameworks. Middle East airspace closures triggered by the conflict have stranded tens of thousands of passengers worldwide and impacted global airline routes, highlighting how Middle Eastern instability now affects everyday life from Johannesburg to London to Tokyo. Oil markets saw sharp reactions as strategic shipping lanes, like the Strait of Hormuz, face risks from military escalation. Such instability directly influences global inflation, energy prices, and economic forecasts. International governments, including European states and the UN, are issuing historic travel advisories and urging restraint to limit civilian harm, underscoring global concern about Middle Eastern conflict escalation. Energy markets, global shipping, religious politics, migration flows, counterterrorism strategy, superpower rivalry. Saudi Arabia balances ties with the US and China. The UAE expands influence in Africa and Asia. Qatar mediates negotiations. Egypt and Jordan manage fragile peace treaties. Turkey asserts regional ambitions. Iran projects influence through allied groups. The region remains interconnected with global stability. The conflict endures because it is layered. Colonial borders, competing nationalisms, religious symbolism, oil wealth, superpower intervention, proxy warfare, domestic political survival. No single agreement addresses all layers. More than 100 years ago, borders were drawn in secret rooms in Europe. Today missiles fly across those same lines. Oil built skyscrapers in the desert, but it also fueled global dependency. Peace treaties were signed. Wars returned. And now the world stands at another turning point. Will the Middle East redefine itself beyond colonial lines and proxy wars? Or will the next generation inherit another century of conflict? Because history shows us one thing. In the Middle East, nothing stays regional for long, and the next chapter is already unfolding. For more videos like this, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.